Well, for a bit more on this, we now speak to political analyst Sanusha Naidu. Sanusha, thanks very much indeed for joining us. I guess that statement from the Treasurer General, short as it was quite significant in this ongoing and unfolding story.
Good evening, Peter. Good evening to the viewers. Yes, it is. I mean, I think it kind of showed us, in the last couple of days, how intense the situation was regarding the president's fate, regarding the president's decision to stay or resign. And more importantly, I think to then come to this point where the statement is, we will support the president and we will basically vote and reject the report that will be debated tomorrow in Parliament, that's based on the independent inquiry that was put together to go forward in terms of where the report had to basically ventilate what level of information exists in order for the president to provide further information in terms of the whole question of the money and the Phala Phala. But I think it demonstrates to us again the challenges that not just that the situation with President Ramaphosa poses for himself, but the actual existential crisis that it poses for the party, that the party goes through these dynamics of not having a cohesive strategy in dealing with the situation. And so we had to wait from the evening of Wednesday when the report was released. There was, I'm sure there were all kinds of scurrying of meetings. Then, of course, Thursday, when we thought the president was resigning, until the evening where his spokesperson said he's not resigning but taking it under consideration, consultation, and then the speculation of the judicial review. And then, of course, the special NEC meeting that was supposed to have happened on Friday, but then basically adjourned because the NWC meeting had to happen. And then, of course, we hear now with the NEC saying that they are going to be, that this meeting then emerges out of the NWC. So what I'm trying to say here, Peter, is that we've been through a very rigorous, if not rigmarole kind of a process where it just hasn't been cohesive enough to say, well, this is where we are currently. And it takes us into this very untested, uncharted waters around the fact that we just don't know where we may be going in the next couple of months, depending what the outcome is of the judicial review, and more importantly, what the outcome is in terms of what the parliamentary debate would be in terms of whether they decide to go ahead and vote, and of course, as instructed, not to basically vote in favor of the report. And then what does this mean for the elective conference? So we're kind of sitting in a very very unpredictable and a precarious situation in terms of just getting some clarity on what things are and where things are going.
A day is a long time in politics, as we found out over time. When Vincent Magwenya spoke, he says a lot of these decisions should not be taken in haste. I wonder if the ANC gave themselves time and gathered their thoughts, and that over the days they were able to draw breath and actually think through, because the initial reaction was quite severe and a lot of people expected things happen within hours. But by giving themselves space, they've had time to think. My question to you is, what have they been thinking about that got them to this decision?
It's very difficult to extrapolate what thought processes were emerging within the ANC. I think if it's at a very superficial level, you could argue that there was those in the party that felt that President Ramaphosa needed to do the right thing and resign. He himself, as we look at media reports, tended to suggest that he was willing to go, but then convinced by members in his caucus not to go, but to fight this thing, to fight the report in the context of the fact that the report in itself had particular discrepancies that needed to be ventilated further. And then, of course, the question, I think, on everybody's mind, and definitely one that plagues you and I, Peter, is Phala Phala just didn't come up suddenly one night and started to uproot the entire political machinery of the ANC. We heard of Phala Phala. We knew that there was this charges that Arthur Fraser had instituted. There were questions around the sale of the buffalo, the cattle, etc. There was questions about the money, etc. What really perplexed me about the situation is what kind of communication strategy the ANC had in dealing with this, both on the part of the president in terms of his inner sanctum of advisors, his strategists, his lawyers, his entire team that sit there with him and tell him how to actually deal with the situation. And then, of course, the ANC and how they develop a communication strategy. If you just look at what happened and transpired from Wednesday night to Friday morning, it also suggests that they don't have a cohesive strategy. It's almost as if it's a trial and error approach. And I think that, for me, makes it very difficult for somebody on the street, or for you and I, especially myself, to be able to then say, this party's got some level of leverage, it understands what it's doing, it's got a plan, it's got a strategy, and it's going forward. That didn't come out very clearly. Communication strategy didn't come out clearly. A cohesive plan didn't come out clearly. It seemed as if they were scrambling, and it seemed as if they were more entangled with this situation in terms of what they wanted to get out of it, whether they wanted it to be the president must come and resign. And then, of course, the question was, if that happens, then where do we go from here? Did we give it enough thought? Did we ventilate it enough to understand what the strategy is going forward? And I think it's coming back to other issues where you're beginning to realize that strategy is becoming a weakening institution or a weakening a space in the ANC, that it's not necessarily one that people are able to say to you that we understand what the strategy is, and based on how different trajectories or different dynamics unfold, we have a strategy to deal with those dynamics. And that's not what we have seen in the last couple of days, Peter.
All right, well, we'll have a lot to chat about, certainly in the next few days, but we'll leave it there for tonight. Thanks so much indeed. Always good talking to you, Sanusha.
Always a pleasure to be on the show. Take care, Peter.
Thank you. All right, so that's Sanusha Naidu, Senior Research Fellow at the Institute for Global Dialogue, giving us her thoughts on developments within the governing party, the African National Congress.